Hey guys, welcome back to the Secret Sanctuary. It's a really big day for us statue collectors. Finally, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns from Prime 1 is out, and it's right there. I'm excited to report that the production piece is just as good as the prototype. I first saw this statue at Comic-Con 2016, and I thought right away, how in the world am I going to fit this thing in my man cave? It's my first 1/3 piece. It's my first Prime 1 piece, and it's very large, and it's very awesome. So I want to say a few words about The Dark Knight, and then I'll switch over to handheld and show you some close-ups and some of the different configurations. Dark Knight first came out in early 1986. I think it was February. I'm a little bit older than a lot of you guys, so I remember very well when that came out. I was about 20 years old and buying my comics at a shop in Garden Grove, California called Fantasy Illustrated, run by a nice guy named Dave Smith. And it was a very highly anticipated series. Frank Miller had already made a name for himself on Daredevil, which for the first time really brought a comic book character that I enjoyed in my childhood into my adulthood. It added layers to that character that made him interesting to me as an adult reader, rather than just the typical beat up the bad guys story that was meant more for a teenager or younger. So Daredevil was important to me. I remember those issues coming out. I remember Elektra was a huge character. He brought Kingpin to life for the first time. Kingpin had been around for a long time, but he wasn't really as menacing as he is considered now until Frank Miller got a hold of that character. The Black Widow was better. Bullseye was better. Everything about Daredevil got better because of Frank Miller. And that led to other things. He did Ronin, a very good 5 or 6 issue miniseries. That was different than anything that I can imagine having been done in comics prior to that. It was really his own vision, and it's a good read. You should try to give that a shot if you haven't already read it. He also had done the Wolverine Miniseries, which was very well received and really influential to the Wolverine movies, just as the Dark Knight issues would be very influential when it comes to the Batman movies. So we knew Frank Miller. He was already the top in comics, I would say. You know, some people would throw John Byrne in there. I don't know. But to me, it was Frank Miller. He was the guy. And so when Dark Knight was announced, there was anticipation. I liken it to the movie Jaws that changed the film industry. That was the first major blockbuster in the film industry, and it changed how movies were made. And in the same way, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns did that to comics. DC realized they could give us slick paper. They could give us epic storylines and charge us more money and make a big profit and make us very happy. We were happy to pay it if the quality was on that level, and it was. So those issues, boy oh boy, we waited for every one of those issues because each one got better than the one before. And it was a great time in comics. The 1980s, you know, you hear about the 80s and the early 90s as having all the foil covers and you know, multiple covers for a first issue and ruin the industry and blah, blah, blah. But it was a seminal moment in comics when you had things like Batman: The Dark Knight Returns going on. So it was with that sort of anticipation that when I saw this in San Diego, I thought, wow, this is not my scale. I don't collect 1/3 pieces. I don't have the space for 1/3 pieces. I'm a 1/4 guy or smaller. But this is a moment in comics. I'm looking at 7 quarter scale statues behind the camera right now. The Hulk maquette, XM, Cable, the Batman PF, the Superman PF, Kingdom Come Superman, Batgirl, and Power Girl. And they're all great statues. I love all those statues. But they don't, they're museum poses. They show the character as you would expect them to be. They show them very heroically, but they don't refer to a specific moment in that character's career or lifetime. This one does. This is an extremely important moment in Dark Knight. We remember him hand-to-hand combat with the mutant leader in that mud hole. We remember the dialogue, him saying, "Your mistake was you thought this was a mud hole. It's actually an operating room and I'm the surgeon," or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But, you know, so you look at this statue, you just don't see Batman. You see the Dark Knight in that moment where the old man in that suit defeated the mutant leader that was terrorizing Gotham City. And so it's more than just the nostalgic feeling you get from seeing Batman on top of the gargoyle, or Superman in, on top of the kryptonite base. Whatever. It denotes more than that. It's a moment in time that we all have nostalgia for. And so in that regard, it's special. It's expensive. One thing I will say about this statue, I have the configuration that you see here is the exclusive configuration, which is the calm portrait and the batarang, the hand with the multiple batarangs. This is a configuration that you're probably never going to use on this statue, to be frank. In some ways, I think of this configuration as the mother-in-law configuration, because this is probably how you would have this statue set up if your mother-in-law was coming to dinner and you didn't want to offend her. But you're not going to usually use this configuration. I do want to say something, and like I said, I will show you a close-up about this calm portrait. There's been a lot of talk on the message boards that this portrait doesn't look as good as the prototype, that there's something wrong with it. And now that I have it in hand, it's clear to me that it's a portrait that, when seen in 2 dimensions in a photograph, does look off. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look as good. But when you see it in 3 dimensions, when you really see, you know, the curve of the face and everything, it's exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's really nice. But again, because there was nothing calm about that moment in that issue of Dark Knight, you're probably not going to use this portrait ever. With that said, I'm going to switch to handheld and let's see some close-ups. Okay, let's start with that calm portrait. Really, really nice. The paint application is wonderful. I just love how that looks. See a close-up of some of the wounds. I'm not going to turn the statue. It's freaking heavy. But the cape does not take up a lot of room. Of course, he's been in a mud hole. The cape is supposed to be drenched and it's just hanging straight down. Some of you asked about, on the message board, about the actual height. If you look at the sideshow site, it says that this piece is 33 inches tall. And if you're worried about whether that's going to fit in your display, it's actually about 3/4 of an inch shorter than that. It's 32 1/4 inches. I hope that's helpful to some of you. Really nice detail. People were worried about whether or not the detail of the fabric would come through on the production piece, and you can see that it absolutely did. Awesome utility belt. I'm not sure there's a better Batman utility belt on any statue. Beautiful. There's only one peg on that right foot, this one. This one just rests on the base. The base is quite large. It's about 21 inches across. For depth, I think it's a touch over 13 inches. Not that bad. Okay, I'm going to switch to a different configuration. All right, here we have the angry portrait without battle damage. Now it's getting good, right? This one has a lot more presence than the calm portrait. This is what we're used to seeing at the beginning of that fight in the mud hole. And in this configuration, he's got the rifle in his right hand. The detail on it is pretty darn nice. I am impressed. Really sharp. All right. And finally, I'm going to switch to the portrait we've all been waiting for. Okay, here's the configuration we've all been waiting for. Beat to hell, but still with a smirk on his face because he won the battle. This is the one that we saw in conventions across the country, across the world, over the last year, and envisioned it in our own collections. Look at that. Very cool. Look at the mud on the cape. Very nice. Go real close there. So, I got to figure out where to put this guy. Right now, I have him resting on a bookcase where I usually put 3 quarter scale statues. So, I got to figure out what to do. Anyway, I'm glad he's here. I hope you guys ordered this one. It's a beauty. So earlier I said I wasn't going to show you guys the back of the statue because it was too heavy, but the video wouldn't be complete without doing that. So here it is. He looks like quite the beast from behind. Let me give you a long view. I love the angle of the cape. And how it just hangs down, wet from that mud hole. Just glorious. Give you a close-up of that utility belt that's done so well. And the boots, and the bat symbol on the back of the base. Very well done. And one last look. All right, I just wanted to say in closing that I've gone over this statue with a fine-tooth comb, every square inch of it. I can find no QC issues with it at all. So salute to Prime 1. Like I said, this is my first Prime 1 piece, and I have zero problems with how this statue came out. The paint application is great, everything's awesome, no chips, nothing. It's really great. I do want to mention that if you've got this coming, congratulations, of course. You got a great piece coming, you should be very, very pleased. But also, if you don't have the X coming, if you have the regular or the collector's edition of this statue coming, you should still be very, very pleased, because as I said before, the exclusive for this statue, this is not an X or fail statue. The configurations that you want are the ones that come with both the regular and the exclusive. So either way, you are good to go. This is going to be a great statue for you. So I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks to review Sideshow's Huntress PF, which I'm looking forward to. And until then, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video, please subscribe, and happy collecting, guys. I'll talk to you soon.